Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's another episode of the Spartan Shadows podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris. I'm joined with one of my co-hosts, Emmett. Zach, unfortunately, unable to make it today. We've had some issues getting our schedules to line up. Plus, I've been having a lot of issues with some medical stuff. So it's been a while. We appreciate everybody's patience. Happy to be back. We'll try to get back on a normal schedule-ish for you, but make sure you're staying up to date with our socials, especially our Twitter, because we're still trying to update you with any news and notes. And Emmett, of course, still doing his media runs for everything that he can. So still trying to get you content even when we're not recording, but we're back to record and fill you in on everything we've missed. So thanks everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it as always. And Emmett, how's it going?
Pretty good. Just a lot of stuff going on for Michigan State as you have that basketball and hockey really getting to that final point in the season where you have that last push before you get postseason action. Lots to monitor right now if you're a fan of the Spartans and you started finalizing that class for football. A lot of stuff to talk about currently.
Yeah, we'll get right into it. We'll start with football because that's the kind of more complete one, I guess. The last of National Signing Days was earlier this week, actually, and that means the 2026 recruiting class is officially finalized. A lot of good names, a lot of good potential. Kudos to the staff for retaining some of the prospects that we were able to retain that were committed prior to them signing on, and then actually going out and filling some spots of need, of course. I'll start on the offensive side of the ball. I'm just going to name the recruits. We'll go over defense, and then I'll let Emmett kind of add anything he wants to, or talk about anything that we like or don't like, or that sort of thing. So starting at, we received a commitment from quarterback Peyton Babbitt, offensive lineman Cole Birdkey, offensive lineman Eli Bickle, offensive lineman Colin Campbell, tight end Joey Caudle, wide receiver Colin Charles, quarterback Cade Kaufman, offensive lineman Tristan Comer, wide receiver Rashawn Elmore, wide receiver Samson Gash. I know that was a bit of a big topic coming down to the last signing day on whether or not he would stay. He did commit. Running back Cedric Williams Jr., wide receiver Zach Washington, tight end Eddie Whiting, and offensive lineman Jack Zaccaro, or Zyarko. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, Zach. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we have defensive lineman Hudson Altman, defensive back Elijah Caldwell, defensive back Darrell Cochran, defensive back KJ DeRizo, defensive back Jeremiah Favorite, defensive back Luca Genrich, kicker Steven Gonzalez, defensive back Jonathan Gamby, defensive lineman Corey House, linebacker Jack Lansing III, offensive lineman Jackson Paul, linebacker Adam Shaw, defensive back Braden Thomas, defensive back TJ Umanura, and long snapper Trey Soroskis. Those are just the high school recruits. We got a whole bunch of transfer portal commits too. But Emmett, as far as the recruiting class, what stands out? What doesn't stand out? What are we thinking?
So I think obviously the biggest name here is, especially in terms of immediate impact, your biggest name has to be Samson Gash. Gash is basically a guy that, just looking at how everything broke down, especially in the transfer portal and everything, when you started seeing some of those options, like your Nico Brown, trying to think of who else Michigan State really pushed after in the portal. When you see those guys going off the board, it became apparent that the staff was willing to bet a little bit more on finding a way, whether it's with more NIL contracts, whether it's recruiting high school teammates, of landing Samson Gash. And you saw really both of those come into effect during this final push toward signing day, with Cedric Williams and Luca Genrich, both being teammates, high school teammates at Detroit Catholic Central out in Novi. Both of them are high school teammates with Samson. So it's obvious that you're making the push, you're landing, his teammates, you're landing the guys that, he's worked with just for the last couple years to push toward these state titles. And it's clear that that's a strategy of offer probably I believe the official thing with NIL opportunities was one thing that was mentioned by some of the paywalled sites, but in the header was NIL opportunities. So it's clear that Samson Gash isn't coming in with not making much, I would say. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know how much, even if I did. Not like we're going to be talking that. We're not here to talk NIL. We're here to talk Michigan State football. And I do think Gash has immediate opportunity in the receiving game, immediate opportunity to really be that spark. I think right now your wide receiver trio is Frederick Moore, KK Smith, and then slot is who are we looking at for slot again? Krishan McCray for slot for sure.
Yeah.
Then you have like Rod Bullard potentially. He's in the portal, but he's announced back, and then you have your wide receiver trio from the 2025 class. I think Gash is instantly coming in to compete with them. I do think he needs a little bit of work as a route runner. I kind of have him behind Taplin, Collier, and Williams in terms of route running, but just speed. He is the I believe holds the state record for fastest 100. He is going to be a burner the second he gets on field, and that's something that really excites me. Then just looking at other things, our kicker, Steven Gonzalez, I believe, number 4 kicker in the nation. I'm very excited about that. Obviously, one of the big things was replacing what you're losing, especially after Martin Connington hit the portal. Tariq Ahmed-Basek, I believe, is there to be kicker 2 during spring camp, but he is also in the transfer portal. So you really have a need to replace that. You have a pair of long snappers, including through the portal. So you are really filling in your needs, and it's clear that there is a complete flip with what LeVar Woods wants to do, and he found his guys and the guys who can execute to the best of their level, and I'm not going to question it because there's a reason LeVar Woods is making the second most money, I believe it is, for any special teams coordinator in the country. And honestly, that's a bargain. He is the best special teams coordinator in the country based on what he did at Iowa. And if Samson Gash is my punt returner week 1, I'm overjoyed. If Braylon Collier is my punt returner week 1, I'm overjoyed because I feel like you are going to see 1 touchdown from the punt return unit this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Emphasis on special teams and bringing over the punter, Reese Dockin from Iowa too. I know that was a transfer portal target we talked about a lot. Obviously, big shoes to fill with Ryan Eckley going to the draft, but he did really well in Iowa, and it's someone that I think could step in and fill the role. And obviously, special teams was a very important emphasis on this staff. So it's exciting to see how that works out. Colin Campbell, I think, is one of my favorite.
I was about to mention just immediate impact, maybe not. Yeah. You might see him kind of get that Rustin Young, Rakeem Johnson. 4 games or less, just enough to get his feet wet, to get a taste of Big Ten competition. But yeah, he could be a redshirt freshman starting offensive line with how many seniors we got.
Yep. Yeah, he's very talented. And I think, like Emmett said, maybe not this year, but in the future, he's going to pay dividends for this offensive line for sure. So exciting times. Pat Fitzgerald seems to be... You didn't even mention
Cade Kaufman, by the way, who is another guy that give him a year or two. And I think Alessio Milivojevic is going to be pushed every day in practice, even this fall. I think Cade Kaufman is that talented. Alessio is going to be pushed every day in the fall. Cam Fancher, with Cam Fancher's addition, Cade Kaufman, unless you really see like a 60-0 blowout happening, I don't think you see Cade Kaufman this year. But I am sure, especially as a member of the local media, we're going to be hearing all about Cade Kaufman's arm during spring camp, during summer camp.
Yeah, he's another very talented player. So I know we've talked about Cade a little bit before too, and it's not enough, it seems like, because this kid can really be something should the development go all the way we expected it to. So Coach Fitzgerald seems to be really excited.
Yeah, what's up, Chris? Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say Coach Fitzgerald seems to be really excited about the class. He spoke very highly over all of it, and the whole staff in general just seems to be ramped and ready to go, and they're using the term the rebirth of Spartan football, and you're hearing it a lot. Pat Fitzgerald says it's a lot. Max Bulla said it, and so the staff seems pretty hell-bent on getting back to the roots that maybe not everybody's used to. I know I lived through the good times of Spartan football, and I was, in college experiencing the no-fly zone and the stuff like that, but people forget how dominant this team used to be, and it's no secret Pat Fitzgerald wants to get back to that, so it's exciting.
Yeah, and I think defensively there are quite a few guys to watch too. Particularly, I'm high on Adam Shaw. I think he's probably going to be that guy. Redshirts might see 4 games on special teams, might see 4 games on one or two defensive snaps depending on the situation in the game. But I think after his redshirt season, he's a guy I'm high on. Braden Thomas, also the safety, particularly high on him. So yeah, there's just a lot to be excited about with this year's class. And overall, Cade Kaufman, my photographer Nolan Giroux, he works up with us at Shadows, does a lot of good work. Check him out. He got to watch both high school. He watched high school football playoffs and did a lot of Michigan State coverage for us this year. And he said, looking at Alessio and Cade, I definitely think that Cade is going to push him. So that's just something to note because he saw almost every snap that, besides the Minnesota game, he saw nearly every snap Alessio Milivojevic had with the ball this year. Right. And he said that there's going to be competition immediately.
And that's good. And, like you said, having a veteran backup like Cam Fancher, too, will absolutely help teach both of them, some things. And, I think that quarterback room is going to be a good room. And the whole team, really, I think there's a lot more depth at places. And maybe, like I said, you're not going to see immediate dividends, but as long as the group can stay together and work together, I think we've got something for the future. Last note about football before we switch gears. We did pick up a couple of 2027 commits for the class of 2027. Xavier Owens, running back, and Grant Adloff also joined the commitment. So 2 commits for Pat Fitzgerald for 2027. Obviously, a lot of time to go, and there will be more. With Samson Gash committing too, there's been a lot of talk about his little brother who is in the class of 2027. Gideon, I believe, is the one, right? Gideon. Because his other brothers play for MSU already, but Gideon is class of 2027, and he is one of the top-rated prospects in the state of Michigan. He's very highly ranked in the recruiting ranks.
He's 6'4" and plays defensive back.
Yep, he's a 6'4" corner. Yeah, so that's it could be a position in need. Yep. So hopefully, obviously, the path is there. Now, there's other things that do factor in, of course, but he's already said it would be a lot of fun to play with his brothers at MSU, and so you never know. That would be a good in, and hopefully the recruiting staff can maybe capitalize on that relationships. But Emmett, any notes about Xavier or Grant that you wanna mention?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind really is Pat Fitzgerald is back to doing what Michigan State football did under Mark D'Antonio. You're going and you're winning your battlegrounds. You're winning an Ohio running back. We've seen how Ohio running backs pan out with Michigan State. Hello, Le'Veon Bell. We've seen how homegrown offensive line works and how you need to win the Midwest offensive lineman if you want to go and really get Michigan State football back. And I'll gladly eat crow here. This was something I brought up during the hiring of Nick Tabaka as the offensive line coach. I pointed out he has not landed a Midwest offensive lineman since the class of 2020. He goes and before we even hit February, lands a Midwest offensive lineman in your own backyard. I believe he's East Grand Rapids High School. So you go and land a guy in your own backyard, and I believe he's teammates with Cole Bertkey, the preferred walk-on offensive lineman we signed on National Signing Day, by the way.
I think so too.
Yeah, so you have Adloff committing, so you instantly really go and land your Midwest offensive lineman, which was something that I was harping on a month ago when the hiring was announced. And like I said, I'll gladly admit when I'm wrong and gladly eat crow here. That was my concern, and I feel a lot better, especially early rankings have Adloff after that commitment as a top 500 kid in the class. Granted, I do think this is not me going on my Michigan State downgrade bias, which Chris and Zach both make fun of me for. I do think he's going to slide a little in rankings just because there's so many unprocessed, unfiltered kids from 27. And
there's a lot of recruiting updates. Yeah.
Yeah, but my one concern on Adloff, his measurables, he's 6'5", 250. So I'm interested to see what his weight is on camp. Assuming he sticks the course, what his weight is like when he hits campus for spring or summer ball, and what it looks like when the official roster is announced on opening day in 2027.
Yeah.
That is just something to watch because the weight really, we're not trying to harp on size or anything like we did with, 6'4" corner, but size at the Big Ten level, at premier college football level, does matter, especially when you factor in 6'5", 250 at offensive line is a concern. But that said, he's a junior in high school. If you are weighing more than that, there's more concerns about it not being as much muscle. So I'm very excited for the commitments we got. I think Xavier Owens is criminally underrated. I think he's a top 900 kid, like in the 850s. If you look at the tape, look at the stats, he should if he and Adloff, the rankings were swapped, I wouldn't bat an eye. Because Owens had 1,600 yards and like 25 touchdowns last year, if I'm not mistaken, was what someone who watches Massillon High was telling me on Twitter, is that he had 1,600 yards, 25 touchdowns, and overall I'm like, okay, this is a kid that you get someone from Massillon High School, traditional Ohio recruiting ground, and this is bringing Spartan football back in terms of recruiting. You have a little bit of concerns with just how the transfer portal went on the offense in a couple areas, but at the same time, there is a focus on the 27 class, and I'm very excited for that. A couple more players are projected to really land crystal balls. Once those get announced, we'll be more on it. But I have heard things about at least 3 different players that could be receiving projections or sending in verbal commitments to Michigan State pretty soon.
Well, and we'll update you when we can, of course. That's good news, hopefully continuing on the recruiting front. Let's switch over to basketball, where the vibes have taken a little bit of a tank over the last few weeks. Going back, I believe the first game that we haven't covered was an overtime win against Rutgers, where MSU really started flat and did not play very well for a good portion of the game. Ended up being down 12 well into the second half, 12-13. Came back and won in overtime. Was quite the comeback, actually. It was fun to watch, but final score on that one was 88-79. Like I said, good effort to come back on the road in Piscataway, a place that is not the easiest to play, but Rutgers also is not the best of teams this year. So it was eye-opening, I guess we'll call it that, and prove that this team still has its faults. And then fast forward after that, we had a game at the Breslin against Michigan where same story, started off not great at all. Bad turnovers, bad shots, not making shots, stupid fouls, stuff like that. Dug themselves in quite the hole in the first half. Had a ferocious comeback, actually took the lead by 2 with, I think, 5 or 6 to go. But unfortunately, that was about all the that was all the gas we had left in the tank. Michigan ended up pulling away late, winning 83-71. And then after that, we had the game this past Wednesday in Minneapolis. Another game, did not start well, did not play well, and unfortunately lost on the road to not a good Minnesota team, 76-73. And to add insult to injury, Devine Ugochukwu, foot injury, out for the year. Death taxes, Michigan State basketball players having foot injuries and being out for the year. It finally happened, and it leaves a gigantic hole in the guards. While obviously Devine wasn't, he was improving. We'll say that he was improving. He was probably a lot of the best minutes that we were getting out of the 2-guard spot, and can obviously play backup point when Jeremy's on the bench. Jeremy Fear is also going through it a little bit of late with some rough play and rough decision making. We'll call it at that. So not the ideal scenario that you want to get yourself into going into tonight's game at the Breslin against the number 5 team in the country in Illinois. We'll preview that game in a little bit here. But the last 3 games, what are your thoughts, takeaways? We can hit on Devine's injury. I guess kind of what are we thinking and where are we at with MSU basketball? Because it's not been the prettiest of late.
Yeah, so the concerns really just become looking at how Michigan State basketball's schedule's unfolding and how the last couple games have gone. There's concern. You can't just go and say, oh, well, Devine had just lost his starting role anyway. It's not the end of the world because, even looking back at that Rutgers game, the Rutgers game is a loss in regulation if it wasn't for Devine hitting a 3 with, I believe, 17 seconds to go. Jordan Scott just started getting time at the 2, but you cannot trot Jeremy Fears out there for 40 minutes a night. Even before you factor in, there have been legitimate concerns about how he played at Minnesota. There was just overall, he looked almost like a mix of Grayson Allen and Brad Davison of Wisconsin. He just kind of had a few antics that there's a difference between switching guys around at the free throw line just to get in an opponent's head than saying he's going to miss that way, versus flailing your legs, kicking, legitimately trying to trip a couple people has happened in each of the last 2 games, which are losses. With Devine Ugochukwu out for the year, you have to really step up and be a leader. And I think that had to have gotten harped on Jeremy during practice this week. And there's also questions about if you're going to see Denim Wojcik get announced as the starter for the Illinois game tonight, just because Tom Izzo did not rule out benching Jeremy Fears from starting tonight's game because of how poorly his antics were in Minnesota. And I know there was legitimately some concern that, honestly, with the ferocious comeback, Michigan State was down 12 or 13 with 3 minutes left against the Gophers. And then they rode back to make it a 2-point game in the final, what was it, 55 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a massive comeback again, and without the technical assess to Fears, without the extra possession, that game could have gone to overtime. That game could have been won in regulation with that comeback. So there comes a time when his antics became the thing that lost Michigan State the game. Now, I'm not saying the entire game would have been better, the entire game would have been worse, but he crossed the line against the Gophers, and I want to see how that talking it out with Tom Izzo, I want to see how he responds to that. How he responds to a challenge and a public challenge from basically a public challenge in front of the media. Tom Izzo didn't just handle this in house. He went and said that, no, my player screwed up and my player might be facing more consequences than just me saying he screwed up. And there is definitely a challenge now for Fears, and there is a clear line and culture set here with Michigan State. And now it's going to become a matter of how Jeremy Fears steps up, because if Jeremy Fears doesn't step up, this Michigan State team is going to plummet from the 2 to 4 seed line that they're at right now to the 6 seed, to the 7 seed, to the 8 seed. And they are going to go for, and honestly, I will say this team, I wouldn't necessarily have put them as a Final Four contender. I do think they had enough to potentially be a Final Four team for the ceiling. With the loss of Devine, I think you're looking at Sweet 16, Elite 8 if you're lucky. Yeah. It's very hard to go and say that this Michigan State team is still going to be a premier contender, because Devine was getting better on defense. His 3-point shooting was starting to get there. He was starting to become a very reliable option and another guy to get the ball up the court to give Jeremy Fears those breaks. And now you're really looking at who's going to be your backup one. Are they pivoting back to Denim Wojcik? Are they pivoting to, a Kurt Tang, a Trey Fort, both of whom don't necessarily have the ball dribbling skills? Are you pivoting to Jordan Scott, who's now your starting 2? There is a lot that I think the starting lineup tonight, even without the Fears drama, is going to be very interesting. Because if you announce the Trey Ford as your starting 2, does that mean Kurt Tang or Jordan Scott's your backup 1? Jordan Scott's your 2. He's going to be coming off the bench around that under 16 or under 12 timeout to give Jeremy Fears a brief rest. There is a lot to watch tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And somebody's going to have to step up. That's what it is. Jeremy Fears obviously is part of that and will have to mature a little bit. I mean, that was the exact quote too. Tom Izzo said Jeremy Fears has a lot of maturing to do. And, public challenge, like you said, he's going to have to take it to heart and see what happens. But outside of Jeremy Fears too, somebody else, Kurt Tang, Trey Fort, Jordan Scott, who as of late, Jordan Scott's been one of our better players, and I thought he's played really well. But is he ready to take on a role where he's a starting 2 or a backup 1 or that kind of 6th man that really gets a bulk share of minutes off the bench playing different positions where, maybe his minutes have been where they needed to be for him to be effective. But if you get more, does he get tired? Does he get game planned differently? That sort of thing. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, a lot of work that needs to be done. I'm excited to see what happens. But yeah, there's a lot of question marks for MSU basketball right now. And unfortunately, you don't get a day off or an easier game to really help do this with, because you get the number 5 team in the country tonight. So, going to be a tough test regardless, even if Devine was healthy. Now you're not with him, and we'll see what Tom Izzo unfolds. I mean, it's not out of the question for this team to rally and do well, but it's just a lot of question marks need to be answered. So game tonight is at 8 p.m., I believe, on Fox.
I don't know. I'm going to be there. I don't look at TV anymore.
It's Fox or Fox Sports 1. I know Benetti and Steve Smith are on the call. Maybe it's Big Ten Network, too. It's one of the Fox affiliates. But
it is going to be...
I want to say FS1.
Fox.
Okay, well, there we go. That's what I get for guessing.
Right,
So
press says Fox.
there you go. So tune in. Like I said, it'll be something interesting to see. Emmett will be there, so follow him on Twitter for updates, and we'll try to keep you posted with what we got and as much as we can. Moving over to hockey real quick, we'll finish up there. Since we've last spoke, we had a big series against Penn State down in Happy Valley. One game at the hockey arena, one game at the football stadium.
Yep.
Both equal MSU wins. It was a good showing down against the number 5 team.
One was overtime.
Oh yeah,
One we lost a point,
but still MSU win for both of them. One in overtime, one in regulation. A good showing against the number 5 team in the country. And yeah, I mean, I thought obviously the star of the weekend for me was Charlie Strammel, but there's a lot of people that have stepped up and played well. Charlie Strammel seems to be on a heater. He even played well last night against Michigan, and an unfortunate 4-3 loss in overtime at Yost. Tonight's game against Michigan will be the last of the season. It is one that is a win is not necessarily needed. Like, you're not going to be out of contention with it, but I mean, it will make the path to the Big Ten championship a lot harder if you don't get it. With a win tonight, you would leapfrog Michigan in the standings. 3 series left to go on the season for MSU. And while you still have to show up and play the games, the 3 series are against lesser ranked teams in the Big Ten currently, teams that are certainly capable of beating you. But, the Michigans, the Penn States, the Wisconsins are going to be out of the way for the rest of the season. So yeah, big game tonight. It is at Little Caesars Arena, Duel in the D trophy game too. So always important against your rival. That game, I believe, is 7 o'clock, 7:30, something like that. Yeah. So, so that is tonight. Be sure to tune in for that too if you'd rather watch that instead of basketball or have it be able to flip back and forth that time.
6:30 tonight.
6:30. So there you go. So should be another good showing. But Emmett, your thoughts on hockey of late? Charlie Strammel's on a heater. Trey Augustine's looks pretty well. Had some.
No, I disagree.
His
last 3 games he's allowed 4 goals in each of the last 3 games.
Yeah, so. Some of them it's rough too because some of them aren't necessarily his fault too. But I just think the defense and Trey haven't been playing, I guess, his best. But
I do think that the defense needs a lot of improvement, and that feels like that's been the concern even since Adam Nightingale started. With just your offense can put up points, but your defense has inopportune breakdowns. So even if you allow only 12 shots between 2 periods, as we saw in that Cornell game, when 9 of them are really good chances, you see what happens. And that's just really my concern, and that's going to be the limiting factor. Discipline, shocker, it's another concern with overall discipline issues.
Yep.
The game-winning goal in overtime happened while Michigan was on a power play.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just overall it's kind of the usual suspects. Just like how Tom Izzo has concerns about free throw shooting and 3-point shooting, Adam Nightingale has his own Achilles heel with defense and discipline, and that really is just what's up.
I was gonna say it's frustrating too because looking at like last night's game specifically, I thought the second period was dominant for MSU. They took control of the game. They were playing really well defensively, scored to make it a multi-goal lead. Really, really took it to Michigan. And then it's like the third period started and the switch flipped. And Michigan.
Even the game-tying goal was a Michigan shorty.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Michigan took the pressure. I mean, State there was I think even like a 2-minute stretch where the puck didn't get out of the zone. But they were just playing offense, and MSU could not clear it, couldn't get a whistle. No damage was done, and you get a lucky break to get a power play off a call, and then you give a shorty up right away. It's like, so frustrating stuff, but.
Yeah, I still am very high on this team, but yeah, I do think that the defense has. You are facing 2 of the top. I would say probably of the top 4 teams in conference. You've seen basically you've survived through it all, and if you win in regulation tonight, Michigan State will have won the season series in terms of points against both Michigan and Penn State, which is crucial. And I believe then with Wisconsin, they would be. Either they lost. What would it be? They lost like 5-7, or they tied at 6-6. Just series.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
don't want to discredit last night's game too, because I mean, Michigan's the number one team in the country for a reason. They're very good, so I don't want to make it
yeah.
sound like it's just all on MSU. Michigan took control of the game and did what they needed to do to win, but
The thing is,
uh,
when Michigan State has a 2 goal lead, it's just
yeah,
you have that frustration. I would say is my thing because if it was 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, you just back and forth game. That's one thing. Or
yeah,
even if Michigan State fought back, you're more proud of the effort. But when you have the 2 goal lead in the third period, you
with
got to
the best
finish.
goalie in the country.
Yeah, with the best goalie in the country who has been getting Hobie Baker hype.
Yep,
I'm not trying to overstate things, but I kind of think that Hobie Baker hype is dead when you
it
have
it
back
could
to
be.
back to back games with 4 goals.
It could be. Yep. I mean, he's got to
Yeah,
go on a run
I'm not.
here.
I'm a big Augustine fan. Obviously, I want to see him in Detroit in a couple years. But I'll call it how it is. I just don't know if you can. I mean, just back to back to back against the best teams in the country. And I mean, that's not all on Augustine. I mean, when the defense lets you down, that is one thing. So, but overall, I would say I still am very excited, and I think Michigan State has very good chances to repeat as Big Ten champions just with how the rest of the schedule breaks down. Because after Michigan plays MSU tonight, they get to go and face Penn State off a bye week. I know Penn State's probably down Gavin McKenna for that series, but
Maybe charges were
yeah,
dropped.
charges were dropped. Well, the felony charges were dropped. I think there is still
Yeah.
going to be a court mandated with. For those who don't know, Gavin McKenna had a altercation with another student where the student was allegedly saying things. One thing led to another, and it was enough evidence that the DA dropped the felony charges. So evidently there was a back and forth. If the DA is dropping felony charges, we're not going to get more into that because this is still this situation hasn't seen to stay in court yet. There is nothing legally decided on it besides
Yeah.
the felony charges are gone. But
Yeah.
overall, Michigan and Penn State still have to square off next week. Penn State's going to have fresh legs off of a bye, and meanwhile, Michigan State gets a bye week, and then they play, I believe, in terms of points, the three lowest ranked teams in conference.
I believe so too.
And I mean, it's worth mentioning Notre Dame went and took Wisconsin either to overtime or at least put up 5 goals against Wisconsin last night.
Yeah.
So this is very good. This Notre Dame team can be very good, but just overall, there should be some optimism that Michigan State repeats for Big Ten champions in hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, definitely. And so it'll be interesting to see what the race ends up with. We'll of course update you on that as the results come out. And like I said, stay with our socials to follow the content and updates that we post. But that's really all we had. Softball made their debut. Women's basketball's been doing okay. They've been kind of up and down of late after
they're ranked 12 in the country still, but last time I checked, they were down at halftime to Penn State today because that game's going on at speak.
So, yeah, so exciting times. Gymnastics rolling. They did beat Michigan the other day. I know I saw. So,
Michigan State roared back. Michigan State women's basketball roared back from down 12 at half to win by 11. By the way, because
nice.
Robin Fralick's team is just that good.
We'll take it.
Big win. Yeah, another big win against Penn State. Michigan State remains winning against Penn State in almost every sport. Let's go. Besides wrestling and football. But.
Well, wrestling's a little bit. I don't know if anybody's going to beat that Penn State team. Yeah.
84. I believe they're at 84 straight wins after that Iowa game.
I believe so. They're ridiculous right now. So that's okay if we don't beat them. I'll give us a pass on that.
Yeah, I was about to say Penn State is putting up prime numbers.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Well, I think that'll do it. We will try to update you, like I said, with more episodes and more content in the future. We apologize again for the break. Wasn't intended, and if we kind of go a couple more weeks without another episode, we apologize, but bear with us. Once we navigate this, get our schedules kind of back in order and are able to do things a little bit better, we'll get back and keep turning out the content. Spring ball coming soon for football, March Madness.
First spring practice, we didn't announce that. First spring practice for Michigan State football will be March 17th, which I believe is St. Patrick's Day.
Yep. Yep, Pat Fitzgerald made a special note of that. What do we got? About a month and 10 days from that. And then March Madness, of course, will be starting right around then, too. And then you get the Big Ten tournament in hockey and basketball.
Yeah, if there's pro day content, I'll try to be on hand for that. If there's
Cool.
anything regarding NFL Combine news, potentially Ryan Eckley, Matt Golban, players to watch, Jack Velling. I am hoping to be at the NFL Combine for Lions on SI, so there will be a little bit of content there. Different name, but I'm sure Chris, under a different media name, but still, Chris will be tweeting the content out for Shadows for us. So
Yep. I'll try my best to relay any information given. So yeah, we appreciate everybody tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know. If you want to hear anything in future episodes, of course, hit us up. We'll do our best to incorporate it, and then we'll be back as soon as we can. So in the meantime, go green.
Go white.